Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the February 2023 edition of EPIC Insight. This is Joe Corona. I'm the Director of Sales and Strategic Partnerships at EPIC Retirement Plan Services, and will be your host for today's call. Signed into law on December 29, 2022, the Secure Act 2.0 strives to expand access to retirement plans, increase retirement savings, and help Americans preserve income and streamline retirement plan rules. With nearly 100 different retirement plan provisions, we strive to make it easier for plan sponsors and advisors to digest and understand this wide-ranging new legislation. With that in mind, we're excited to have joining us Tim Slavin. Tim is a Senior Vice President of Retirement at Broadridge Financial. As a leader in the industry for over 30 years, Tim brings great insight and expertise to these challenging topics. Tim joined Broadridge in 2010 and is focused on growing Broadridge's position in the retirement industry. Additionally, he is on the advisory board of Spark and RII's marketing group. Keep in mind, your line will be muted throughout the call, but if you have any questions you would like addressed at the end of the session, please enter them in the webinar control panel, and we will address them at that time. And with that, I will turn it over to Tim.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. Broadridge has been engaged with EPIC for about 20 years in various degrees. Broadridge is a public company with about a $14 billion market cap. We have a big footprint in the retirement space because we own Matrix, which is a 401k defined contribution custody and trading platform with about $700 billion in AUA on it. Plus, we are a big provider of communications, digital communications to the retirement space. I'm by no means an advisor, but I think what I can bring to the table is that we have been working on this Secure Act for 13 months, waiting with bated breath for it to come out as law. We've had some significant amount of talent assigned to it, and we're spending a lot of time with advisors and talking to them about the act. One of our subsidiaries, FI360, which does analysis of asset offerings and also provides AIF certification. We deal with 13,000 advisors there. So we have a lot of advisor interaction, and I hope to share that with you. I'm probably not going to tell you anything you don't know, but on the same token, I think it's important for us to share with EPIC, everything we kind of do feel about the act so far. So if we go to the next slide, Joe, please. I don't need to tell you folks about the retirement condition in the U.S. While assets have tripled in defined contributions, there's only 656,000 401k plans. Now, there's various ways to get this data, but most of it's within range. So we spend a lot of money and time analyzing this. However, there's 6 million U.S. businesses with 5 FTEs without a plan. And the Secure Act, if you look at what it is at the basic beginnings or parts of it, is to increase the number of plans from 656,000, in my view, to well over 2.5 million by 2026. My personal opinion is that if we don't do that, that the government's going to come in and mandate 401k plans, and we all know or have an opinion anyway about government mandates or whether they work or not. It's also one of the things that really concerns me is that the average person has 97,000 saved for retirement. Like we said, okay, it's something, but 30% of nothing saved. So with the possible change in Social Security or the fluidity of Social Security, it kind of gives you kind of pause, to say the least. This is a tremendous opportunity to go for advisors, but as best we can find out, and we have this from multiple sources with an analysis we did, only about 6% of FAs actually engage in the retirement business. It's often broken down into generalists and specialists. As we go around the country and talk to folks, the specialists, frankly, don't seem to be that concerned or into the Secure Act. They're not in the business of getting startup plans. But the generalists, particularly those involved in the high net worth side, are seeming to be very much more engaged than they've ever been before for the retirement side. Next slide, please. You know that there's 92 provisions. I can't believe it. Somebody who suffers with ADD, I actually read the 4,000 pages. I fell asleep a couple of times, but I got through it. But the new provisions seek to increase the availability through tax incentives and credits to employers, especially small businesses, to start a plan. I think that's very important. I think it'll remove a lot of obstacles. I think the auto enrollment is really critical because you all know that participants and Americans in general have a little bit apathetic. If they get enrolled, they stay enrolled. And the ability to have that automatic enrollment increase a percentage per year up until 15%, I think is a very good thing. Also, the allowing student loan repayments is important. The average student loan costs $456 per month, and we've seen a lot of Gen Zs and millennials not enter plans because they're stuck with a student loan. Working with EPIC, you'll be able to determine how to handle that, be able to pay student loans down using employer match. Also, the flexibility, the whole thing about matching contribution RMDs. I think the RMDs are very important. People are working longer. To be honest with you, 70 is, I don't know if it's the new 50, but it certainly isn't 70 of 30 years ago. So people will be working, and with inflation, you may see people working, and you may see people go back into the marketplace. There was an article in today's journal about that. We also see some interesting things that they've done on the EQ side, particularly allowing emergency withdrawals for spousal abuse, also including the ability to have military spouses automatically in part of the plan. So there's some really good EQ stuff that's come out with the Secure Act. And it's I'm very cynical about DC. I don't know about the rest of you, but it's one of the best things to come out of DC in a long time. Next slide, please. Like I said, we spent a lot of time trying to understand what the impact on for advisors. So we see in the near term retirement opportunities for advisors. And listen, I'm probably telling you a lot you don't know, and I appreciate you being on. But I wanted to highlight it because we think it's important. As I said earlier, the RMD is a big deal. Keeping that RMD and pushing it out. I mean, my personal opinion, is that you may see RMDs go away someday in exchange for everything being a Roth. I got some interesting information from the SEC. We at a meeting we had that the tax abatement, so to speak, or the tax credit that you get for a 401k is something that is really hurts the already bad deficit. And I think you're going to see attempts by Washington to modify that or have it means tested. Again, this is opinion, it's not fact. To see more push towards a Roth IRA. The government, it really doesn't like money deferred now. They'll worry about it later. So I think you'll see the move more towards Roth. The other thing is the multiple catch-up contributions, special catch-up contributions for employees 60 to 63. These are very important things. Changes for the charitable QCD. I mean, this is very interesting because it's $100,000, but it's now adjusted for inflation. 2 years ago, if you said it was adjusted for inflation, most people would meet that with a yawn. With the current conditions with inflation, it's actually good for people, and QCDs, may continue to grow well past 100,000 plus inflation over the next couple of years. The same thing similar for QLACs. Increase the QLAC dollar a minute from 125 to 200K is quite a percentage jump, and that too will be adjusted for inflation. So again, these are all things that are helpful for somebody to grow their plan and to be able to have things like longevity and annuity contracts. Speaking of which, we've established a separate subgroup of clients focused on retirement income, which you'll hear about one of these days through EPIC. We think that's a big opportunity to start for plan sponsors and advisors to start really positioning retirement income beyond annuities over the next year or so. So more to come on that. Next slide, please. For those who are years away, what's impactful? Well, automatic enrollment gets people enrolled. You get people enrolled, they stay enrolled. And the auto investment escalation, obviously the participant can go in and stop it or increase it. But I think this gets people to understand that they need to be enrolled. One of the things that we've seen, and I have data that I could provide to you if there's any interest, we have seen that Gen Zs approach 401ks differently than millennials. Gen Zs are leaving their money in their 401k plan and not rolling it over. I think they all saw what happened to their parents in 2008, 2009, being in tech companies that got slaughtered. I think we're seeing them leave their money in their plan, a lot of it in conservative investments or in annuities in insurance contracts. And when they leave the position, keeping it there rather than rolling it over to an IRA, assuming the plan allows that. So we've seen a lot of that. The other thing is the ability to roll over 529 assets into a Roth IRA. We also think this may change. It's up to $35,000 now. The paperwork and the means testing around it is kind of messy. So we're doing more investigation on that. But it's a start that if you end up with 529 plan assets that, you know, your grandson that gets a scholarship to Stanford and you don't need it, that you'll be able to roll 35,000 to a Roth. We see that becoming more as a possibility to grow further down the line. The other thing, the update on the Savers credit, that's not going to happen until 2027, but it will allow that up to 2K will be directly left. Instead of just getting the tax credit, which people don't fully understand, this will be a direct deposit of $2,000 into a retirement account. We're not clear if it's means tested yet, but this is the type of thing that, it is means tested, I apologize. It is means tested. We do think that there's some rumblings that they may change that and move it up the food chain from 35,000 net income to higher than that, up to maybe 50. So, you know, stay tuned on that one. Next slide, please. The opportunity for advisors, retention and branding. Look, you know this. To be positioned as the thought partner on the Secure Act provides a timely reason to get in front of your contacts, but specifically high net worth ones. If you have access to SMEs or legal talent, maybe EPIC has some talent, you may want to include them in meetings, particularly with high net worth individuals. One of the things we found out with one of the largest broker-dealers in the world that we work with, we were doing some analysis with them on the Secure Act, and they estimated before they did the analysis that, and this is a firm with millions and millions of accounts, they estimated they had between 54 and 60,000 account owners who were also business owners. After the analysis, they came back and found out they had 2.5 million of individuals where either the wife or the husband was the owner of a business. So they see that as an opportunity to offer, whether it's a state IRA, SEPs, or a startup 401k. So on the high net worth side, I think there's some significant opportunities. I remember a couple of years ago, I've told the story 100 times. I went into a unnamed broker-dealer's branch in Red Bank, New Jersey, and said, do you provide 401k services? And the broker of the day said, no, hold on a second. I think I have a brochure somewhere. And he handed me a Mutual of Omaha brochure, which means that if you're not going to be in the business as an advisor, you're running the risk of having your client picked off by other people who are going to be in that business. That's our, again, opinion. I think you have to get in front of plans now and alert them on the secure benefits, of the benefits of the Secure Act. There's a lot of information on the web put out by people like Spark, ASPA, etc., that is fairly good. We have documentation on that we can share with EPIC, and you may want to get in front of clients sooner rather than later. You also want, you don't want to, as I said earlier, you don't want to risk not having a defined contribution platform so you don't lose your high net worth business owners. And that's why working with somebody like EPIC, and it is a commercial because I've known them for such a long time, I have such respect for them, is great. You've got to be engaged with the DC opportunities that this affords you. We think it's a huge opportunity for generalists. You should analyze your book of business. Again, you know this. One of the things we offer, and again, this is not a sales commercial, Broadridge offers the FI 360 advanced industry fiduciary certification that helps you get the gravitas needed to be beyond just a generalist and to bring that fiduciary strength to the table. It's a very strong product. We offer a discount through EPIC, but we're seeing more and more generalists. We have 12,000 signed up now to use it, who are AIF certificate holders. We see more in the future getting that certification to become more of a fiduciary, which I think is important to be able to stand out from the specialists. Next slide. And you know this, the IRA world, to analyze new books for IRA opportunities. I call it digital nudging. I don't know if I invented it, but it's the word I use. To get clients to contribute to IRAs, to remind people, even I have to remind myself every year that, holy smokes, I got to do my Roth IRA, and I get down to the last minute. The ability to constantly nudge clients. Yeah, it may only be $6,000 per person, but it all adds up. And in this competitive business that you're in, it's absolutely it's crucial. Also, do you max catch-up provisions? Do you send out emails? Do you remind people, particularly as their birthdays happen when they hit 50? I think that's really important. But positioning yourself as a thought partner on the Secure Act really gives you a really good reason to get in front of high net worth individuals where you're not really selling anything, but you are showing them your expertise in the space. There's the expected existing business growth. This is a random line in here. We've gotten this from two high-end consultants we have engaged. They see us doubling defined contribution AUA over the next 3 years. Now, some of that includes state-mandated IRAs. State-mandated IRAs are really, I wouldn't say booming, but we have a record keeper client who has $25 billion on his platform within the last 2 years. That's net new. $1 billion is 401k. The other $24 billion is state IRAs. So where it's mandated, obviously, there's significant growth. And like I said earlier, you don't want the U.S. government mandating anything. So we see a significant opportunity to grow your defined contribution through increased plan formation and with automatic enrollment. Next slide. So, the new plan creation, the tax credits. Tax credits are terrific. I mean, it's over 2 years. It's up to $10,000. The average plan cost to get started is about $2,500. We also see the act putting pressure on employers. You're going to see, a lot more media. I mean, I've seen media like I've never seen before for, something coming out of defined contribution, 401k, regulatory. Anytime you see it on Yahoo News or you see it in the New York Post or you see it on CNBC or MSNBC, sorry, you know that it's hitting the average person and it's beyond just the normal, Wall Street talk that you see on some of the financial news networks. As I said, you've got to be able to analyze your base to determine what clients may fit a DC plan. You can do that. I'm sure EPIC can help with that. Again, it has the total ability to get in front of, can grow your relationship with increased opportunities. And again, as I said earlier, you don't want to wait to find a platform you can work with. That's why working with EPIC is terrific. Again, we think it's a tremendous opportunity for generalists. We have had very little discussion or very little interest from specialists. We have seen some of the larger providers who specialize in small plans willing to take on plans for, I'm sure EPIC will do this, for zero cost for a certain period of time until such time as the tax credit comes in. Your record keeper wants to help you grow your business, and it wants to make sure that it helps you, through the Secure Act, eliminate any startups or speed bumps from creating a plan. Next slide. Some other Secure Act benefits. Some of this stuff we are working still with our lawyers and outside consultants. The emergency sidecar accounts up to $2,500. We're not exactly sure what you're allowed to invest in. We're not exactly sure on if it's every year, so stay tuned for that. So I asked a high-end advisor, wouldn't this be for not for the high net worth space? No, this is perfect for the high net worth because they'll put that $2,500 away tax-free. It's just another tax-free thing that can grow. So we'll learn more about that. As we learn more, I promised EPIC that, for what it's worth, we'll provide our opinion about how we see the emergency sidecar working and what we think how the regulation falls out. Another good thing on EQ is permanent rule at $22,000 distribution from a plan or IRA away from the early withdrawal. That happens. So like what's happening in Ohio, assume that's federally declared disaster, people will be able to take distributions up to $22,000 from their plan or IRA with the withdrawal penalty waived. I mentioned the penalty-free rollover of 529 to Roth. It's after 15 years. I said it's subject to a contribution limit. That too, I think, was going to change. And finally, student loan repayments. EPIC may know, I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work. There are over 18,000 student loan providers in the country, so someone's going to have to provide some kind of aggregation out of record-keeping systems into that student loan payment process to be able to get that paid. I do think this will really increase Generation Z, maybe millennials' interest in 401ks if they can have the employer match go to pay down their student loan so they can check that box, keep that separate, and then continue to start being in a 401k, not having to wait and not miss out all the years of deferred income. So we think that's important. All in all, we like the Secure Act. As I said, we spent 13 months analyzing it. Most of the things that we expected to be in there came out. There's still some open discussion. One open discussion thing that we have to work on is it's requiring that if you have opted out, if the plan has opted you out to e-delivery, that you still must receive one paper statement per year. We're working with record keepers and also Spark to determine, wait a second, how does that happen? How does anybody know whether or not that was opted out by the plan or the participant did it herself? So, more to come on that. But that was not funny, but that was lobbied strenuously by AARP during the last couple of days of the Secure Act, because AARP believes that, people who are considered retirement age, don't get anything digitally. They get everything in paper, which we all know is not true. So that's just one of those things that happen to be in there. So look, that's my overview. I'm happy to turn it back to Joe. I do appreciate the time spent with you. We're happy to take some questions and happy to have anybody reach out to us if there's any interest beyond what we talked about. Joe?
Well, thank you very much, Tim. We're now going to open up the floor for a few minutes of questions. So if you do have something that you would like to run by us, please enter it in the question panel now. We do have one question, Tim, to start off with, which is obviously the Secure Act is wide-ranging in terms of what areas of the retirement industry it covers. But in your opinion, what do you think will have the most effect on improving retirement outcomes that are coming from the Secure Act?
Great question. I don't know about, let me talk about outcomes in a second. I do believe that the tax credit will engender a lot of new plans. And there were a lot of people in the space, I can't speak for them, but a lot of people in the space who are record keepers who are willing to take startup plans. If you've been in the industry as long as I have, and I kid people that I've been in since the Lincoln administration, nobody wanted to take startup plans because there's no money in it. We've seen that change. Not everybody, but a lot of record keepers know that, hey, to keep a high net worth client, I'll take a startup plan. And startup plans eventually grow. So I think the credit, the startup plans, eliminating all the speed bumps for plans to get started, I think is a big thing. And I also think the other big thing is the auto enrollment with auto investment, because Americans have a tendency to be apathetic. If you're automatically enrolled, 68% of automatically enrolled participants now stay enrolled. Now, they don't automatically have 1% of their salary put into an investment, so we'll see. But even if it's just above 50%, it's still going to be a big deal to see more assets in 401k plans. And again, plan growth and more assets in plans is absolutely critical.
Great. Thank you, Tim. We do have another question in regards to that sidecar emergency savings account. Is the $2,500 above and beyond the normal current contribution limits?
Yes. And we started out as something that we think, that I think they thought was going to be great as an emergency savings account for, lower middle class folks, lower salaried folks. But as we looked at it, unfortunately or unfortunately, it looks like it's something that more high net worth people can take advantage of and put more money tax-free away.
Great. Next question is related to actually state mandated plans, which you did touch on, versus there is a provision obviously in the Secure Act related to a starter 401k plan. Do you think that will have an impact on those opting to go the starter 401k route versus the state mandated route, or even the impact on those that might have considered simple plans?
That's a very good question, and I think that's wait and see. We're certainly hoping that the starter 401k takes off, because it also has employer match, or the opportunity for an employer match. The assets can grow. These mandated IRAs are very limited. There's no match involved in them. The client gets to check the box and say, okay, now I have a retirement plan, I'm good. And even if he grows to, very successfully to 100 employees, he's like, hey, I don't have to provide a 401k plan. I don't know if that's the right activity long term for good employment rules and good employment benefits, in our opinion. But it does have it has an impact. We'll wait and see if we see enough startup plans versus state mandated. Now, the state mandated is only in, I think it's 8 plans now, 8 states now. We see a lot of red states not doing that, so stay tuned.
Another question related to Roth. Obviously, one of the terms that we've heard in most recent years is the Rothification of retirement plans, and it seems like we're seeing it in full force here in the Secure Act, whether you're looking at contributions related to catch-up or the traditional or the normal contributions. Do you see that Rothification continuing on into the future?
Yes, I see it continuing on. This is a Tim Slavin opinion. Nobody else is at Broadridge, but I do believe that you're going to see the tax credit for 401k deductions means tested in the next few years, depending upon the makeup of Congress and the presidency. I do believe that there's going to be more and more push to get people into Roth and take away that immediate tax credit and means tested.
Great. And last question that we have is related to required minimum distributions. And obviously with the required minimum distribution changing not only with the first edition of the Secure Act, but even further with the second edition of the Secure Act. Can you touch on obviously the importance of an advisor in that relationship and working with those high net worth clients that you were referencing earlier?
Great point. I was talking to a friend who's of that age, and when he went to his advisor initially, it was like, the guy was talking Martian. Not to take a shot, but it's not that simple. It's kind of complicated about when you take it, how you take it, and that's why I think it's absolutely critical to have an advisor. Trying to do it on your own or with some online algorithm, who knows if it's right? And even now, there's less penalty implications going forward with the Act. That doesn't happen until 2024, but the penalty implications in 2023 are high. I think it's very important for an advisor to sit down and talk about the RMD and how it works. And then also determine, hey, you're going to take your RMD. Do you want to do something with the QLAC to be able to put some of it towards a charity of your own? So I think that's very important. I don't know how you do it without an advisor. The other thing we're finding with advisors opportunities is that people do not know when to take Social Security. Many people are taking it too soon, in our opinion. Again, just our opinion. I think an advisor to include the RMD discussion along with Social Security start dates is also very important. And that's why we need advisors now more than ever.
Great. Well, thank you, Tim, and appreciate all of the information that you've shared with us. So we would like to thank Tim and Broadridge Financial for helping us with this EPIC Insight webinar. As a reminder, we will be sending out a copy of today's slides and a recording of the session as a follow-up. And as always, we wish you safety and health as you support your families, colleagues, and clients. Please don't hesitate to contact us if there's anything that EPIC Retirement Plan Services or Broadridge can do to help support you and your efforts. And we thank you and look forward to having you join us for our March edition of EPIC Insight.